Ever since I got into real estate video walkthroughs, I have gone through an immense amount of gimbals, including the very first Ronin-s. And for the better half of 1 year, I've used 4 different types of gimbals in my walkthrough videos, searching for the perfect one. And the Ronin-s2, when it first leaked, I was really excited about it. I didn't know what DJI was going to bring, but what they did give us is absolutely fucking amazing. What's good, everybody? Ken here. You're watching OriginaldoBo, and on my channel I do real estate video walkthrough tours, tutorials, how-tos, basically showing you how to make money with your camera and video gear. And today we're talking about the Ronin-s2. I'm gonna give you my first impressions. I'm not gonna get into all the technical mumbo jumbo because that's been done 1,000 times over already. I wanna give you sort of more of an off-the-cuff, real-world use case scenario using this on a paid client gig, how it treated me, and what I overall really think of it coming from a Weeble S. So first things first, the weight on this is greatly reduced. I have to say right out of the gate, this was very, very comfortable to use. It didn't hinder me whatsoever, shooting for about 3 hours yesterday on this home, which was pretty impressive because the first Ronin-s, I would have to take multiple breaks and or put a dual handle grip on there so I can diversify that weight a little bit across both my arms. With this, it wasn't cumbersome at all. It felt really, really great. Another thing that I really do like about this version over the last version is the fact that we now have locks. Now these locks aren't perfect locks because they are sort of stubby locks. And sometimes I can get confused with these locks thinking they are actually one of the bolts on the gimbal. So right underneath here, there's some bolts and they feel very similar to the lock itself. So I kept finding myself accidentally trying to lock it with one of these bolts. I wish they were a little bit more prominent or maybe a different shape, but that's really my only gripe so far with the overall physical dynamics of this gimbal. The touchscreen on this was super, super convenient as I was going through filming this home. Oftentimes, I used to find myself having to pair up to the Z Play app or the old Ronin app to make configuration changes to dial in the gimbal a little bit differently on certain scenes. With this, you have 3 presets. You have mode 1, 2, and 3. And then with the touchscreen, it's almost like you have an infinite amount of possibilities that you can control directly from the gimbal without ever taking your phone out of the pocket. This was really, really helpful. And the fact that it laid out the speeds that I was choosing and whether it was the deadband, the pan, or the tilt axis, and you could even control the thumbstick speed, which was helpful. As I was going through the real estate walkthrough that I was doing yesterday, I kept finding myself gravitating towards the pan follow mode, which I normally don't use. Normally I would use the pan tilt follow with the Weeble. And with this, what I found myself doing was using the pan follow mode and just using the thumbstick to be able to control the tilt when I wanted it. And it was actually working out incredibly well. The fact that I can dial in the deadband and the smoothing was really, really precise and a welcoming change. This gimbal really spoiled me yesterday. The algorithms that DJI put in place on this gimbal have greatly been improved. I can't stress that enough. This is the smoothest gimbal I have ever used. And I mean that 100%. DJI did not send this gimbal out to me. I ended up getting my gimbal from DroneWorks. Obviously, I have a store. It's called DroneWorks. Links in the description below. Buy all the shit from there. Stop buying from Amazon. Come on. But This gimbal is really smooth, and I mean that. You can be an absolute idiot with the way you walk, and you're going to get a usable shot. It may not be the smoothest shot, but it's gonna be a salvageable shot. There's a lot of people that buy gimbals and think that the gimbal is gonna do all the heavy lifting for them. And for the most part, that's just not true. Most gimbals, it's not gonna happen like that. You're gonna have a lot of shake, a lot of wobble. But with the Ronin-s, I can honestly say this is the first time I haven't had to use warp stabilizer on multiple clips in this video that I did yesterday. It was very, very seldom shots, and it was maybe when I was really pulled in at like 55 millimeters on some of those faucets that I had to obviously warp stabilize, because the wider the shot, the less stability you're going to need. The narrower the shot, you're probably gonna need a little bit of stabilization. But this thing did absolutely phenomenal. The speed was perfect. The overall flow that this gimbal had was just really, really awesome. Now, I did make some changes and customize it just a little bit, and I think I got some great results. And I slowed some of these clips down. Obviously, I shoot 24 frames per second, so it definitely helps out and definitely gives it a smoother appearance for sure. We used F-Log for all the clips and color graded accordingly. Something that I found myself using quite a bit yesterday was the fact that I can actually plug in over here. Let's see if I can pull this out here. But anyways, you can plug in over here and control your record button directly to your camera. You can control ISO on certain cameras. Unfortunately, Fuji, it doesn't work, or at least I didn't find a way to control the ISO or my aperture from the Fuji, but I know Sony that works and Canon that supposedly works as well. But just having the ability to hit the start, stop, record was good enough for me. Some minor annoyances that I had as I was going through filming this house yesterday was the fact that I kept accidentally hitting the mode button, and it would switch the mode in the middle of shooting. So you just gotta be mindful of where your finger is and just lock it down maybe, because I also was touching the screen as well, and that was changing settings on it as well. So the screen is very sensitive, so you're gonna wanna make sure that you lock the screen and lock your buttons as you begin shooting. One other notable change that they made that I haven't got a chance to test yet is the fact that there's a follow focus wheel in the front of the gimbal. And this to me makes a lot of ergonomical sense. If that, I don't know if that's a word, but this just makes a lot of sense having the follow focus here. I do plan on using it because with this lens here, it is a mechanical focus lens. So I do want to go ahead and get the follow focus on here. I do believe that the Ronin-s2 is probably a little bit overkill for my setup. So I am interested in seeing what the RS2 our RSC2 has to offer, because if it's anywhere near as good as this, I mean, I may just use the RSC2 because it still carries a 6.5 pound capacity, but the Ronin-s2 is a phenomenal gimbal. It's definitely smooth, so I'm really curious as to what I can get out of the other gimbal as well, because this one does really well. One other minor thing I want to touch on before I leave you with this video is the fact that they did go ahead and improve the quick release plate, which I think is a big thing. It's sort of underrated. But this is using the Manfrotto lock, and it's sort of an Arca Swiss up top here. So for me, that shoots photos as well. I can sort of exit out of this gimbal plate and then take this and throw this into my tripod and start taking photos, because the plate on the bottom matches up with my Arca Swiss plate on my tripod. Now that may not work out for everybody, but it definitely did work out for me perfectly yesterday. They also added some sort of little lever wheel that allows you to fine tune the balance just ever so slightly. And yeah, it's just all the little things that DJI did with this gimbal that makes it so impressive. The biggest thing that I see that DJI tends to do is that they don't reinvent the wheel, they just improve on it. As to where some of these other gimbal manufacturers, they keep putting out something new, something different that nobody asks for, and they don't fix the initial problems with their gimbals. Zhuing, I'm looking at you. Fix your shit before you make something new and different. They sort of did that with the Crane S2, made it an iteration, but I don't know. I think you blew your wad a little bit too fast, because this thing is an absolute beast. Anyways, if you're interested in getting this in your hands, we do have some in stock, very few in stock. Link will be in the description below if you want to check that out. If you have any other questions, be sure to ask them. I'll be hanging out in the comments section, and I will be putting out a tutorial on my settings that I am using to get super smooth shots when it comes to real estate, because then that's sort of how I make my money, is real estate. So there you go. As always, guys, stay original.